The dust swirled as crowds pressed in along the hills of Galilee. Men and women, children and elders, the sick and the curious, all gathered, drawn to a man who taught like no one else. He wasn't rich. He had no scrolls in his hands or guards at his side. But when he spoke, it was as if heaven bent down to listen. Jesus of Nazareth didn't teach like the others. He didn't speak in dry theology or quote endless rules. He told stories, simple, earthy, unforgettable stories. Parables, he called them. And through these stories, he unveiled a kingdom not built by swords or gold, but by love, grace, forgiveness, and truth. The sower and the soil, seeds of the kingdom. One day, as the sun beat down on a lakeside crowd, Jesus stepped into a boat and began to teach. "Listen," he said, "a farmer went out to sow his seed." And with those words, the kingdom began to unfold. Some seeds fell on a hard path, eaten by birds before they could even sink in. Others landed on rocky soil, sprouting quickly but withering without roots. Some fell among thorns, choked out by worries and distractions. But some fell on good soil. They took root, grew strong, and multiplied 30, 60, even 100-fold. People looked at each other puzzled. Later, alone with his disciples, Jesus explained, "The seed is the word of God. The soils are the hearts of those who hear. Some hearts are hard, some shallow, some are tangled in worldly cares. But those who truly listen, they bear fruit. The kingdom begins inside them and grows into something eternal." The Good Samaritan. Love without boundaries. A religious teacher once tried to trap Jesus with a question. "Who is my neighbor?" Jesus responded, as always, with a story. "A man was traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho," he began, "when robbers attacked him. They stripped him, beat him, and left him half dead. A priest came by, saw the man, and walked away. A Levite came by, glanced, and hurried past. Then came a Samaritan, a man considered impure, unclean, an outsider by Jewish standards. But the Samaritan stopped. He knelt beside the bleeding man, poured oil on his wounds, wrapped him in cloth, and lifted him onto his donkey. He brought him to an inn, cared for him through the night, and paid the innkeeper to keep helping." Which of these three, Jesus asked, was a neighbor to the man who fell among thieves? The answer was clear: the one who showed mercy. "Go and do likewise," Jesus said. In that one story, boundaries were shattered. Race, religion, status, none of it mattered. What mattered was compassion. That, Jesus taught, is the heartbeat of the kingdom. The prodigal son, the father who ran. Crowds leaned in whenever Jesus spoke of forgiveness. The Pharisees, with their scowls and pride, couldn't hide their distaste. But the broken, the shamed, the sinners, they clung to every word. So he told them this: there was a man with 2 sons. The younger son was restless. He wanted freedom. "Give me my inheritance," he demanded, and his father, heart aching, gave it. The boy fled to a distant land. There he lived wildly, wasted everything. Drunk, broke, and alone, he found himself feeding pigs. So hungry, he envied their food. Then came the moment, the turning. "I will go back," he said. "I'll tell my father I've sinned. I'll ask to be a servant." But as he limped home, rehearsing his apology, something unimaginable happened. His father saw him from far away and ran. He ran down the road, tears streaming, arms open wide. Before the boy could finish his speech, the father wrapped him in robes, placed a ring on his finger, and ordered a feast. "My son was dead," he said, "and now he's alive again." Love, not earned, but given freely. That, Jesus said, is what the Father is like, the lost sheep, a God who pursues. What kind of shepherd, Jesus asked one day, if he has 100 sheep and loses one, wouldn't leave the 99 and go searching for the one that's lost? The crowd murmured. A shepherd risking his whole flock for one sheep? It sounded foolish, but Jesus smiled. When he finds it, he said, he lifts it onto his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he returns home, he calls his friends and says, "Celebrate with me. I've found my lost sheep. And then came the truth. There is more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous people who don't need to. God wasn't waiting for us to clean ourselves up. He was already searching, the hidden treasure and the pearl, the worth of the kingdom. Jesus often compared the kingdom of heaven to treasure, not the kind stored in banks, but the kind that changes your life when you find it. He said, "The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. A man finds it, hides it again, and in his joy goes and sells everything he has to buy that field." He continued, "It's like a pearl of great price. When a merchant finds it, he sells everything to buy it." These stories weren't about greed. They were about passion, about seeing something so valuable, so eternally good, that you'd give up anything just to have it. That's what the kingdom is, worth everything. The unforgiving servant, a call to forgive. Peter once asked Jesus, "How many times should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times?" Jesus replied, "Not 7, but 70 times 7. And then came a parable. There was a king who wished to settle accounts, Jesus began. One servant owed him millions, an unpayable debt. The man begged for mercy. The king forgave him entirely. But then that servant went out and found another man who owed him just a few coins. He grabbed him by the throat, demanded payment, had him thrown in prison. When the king found out, he was furious. "You wicked servant," he said, "I forgave your great debt. Shouldn't you have done the same?" And so the man was handed over to be punished. Jesus ended with a warning. "This is how your Father will treat you if you do not forgive your brother from your heart." Forgiveness, Jesus taught, isn't optional. It's the currency of the kingdom. We receive it freely, and we must give it freely too. The workers in the vineyard, grace beyond fairness. Some in the crowd struggled with grace, especially those who felt they had earned God's favor. To them, Jesus told a shocking story. A landowner went out early to hire workers for his vineyard. He promised them a fair day's wage. Later, he hired more. At noon, at 3 p.m., and even some at 5 p.m. At sunset, all were paid. And to everyone's surprise, they were all paid the same. Those who worked all day grumbled. "It's not fair," they said. But the landowner replied, "Didn't I give you what I promised? Don't I have the right to be generous?" And Jesus smiled, knowing how upside down his kingdom must seem. The last will be first, the first last. Because grace isn't fair, it's better than fair. It's undeserved, and it's for all. The two builders, a choice for every heart. At the end of one long sermon, as the crowd sat silent and spellbound, Jesus closed with a final story. "Anyone who hears my words and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rains came, the winds blew, the floodwaters rose, but that house stood firm. But the one who hears my words and does not act on them is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The storm came, and the house collapsed." Jesus looked into their eyes. He wasn't just telling stories. He was offering a choice. Would they trust him? Would they build on his words? Because storms will come. But those who anchor their lives in his truth will never be shaken. Parables that still speak. Jesus didn't just teach principles. He told living truths wrapped in soil and stars and shepherds and coins, in wheat fields and wedding feasts. His parables were doorways into a kingdom that no one could see unless they listened with faith. Love that crossed borders, grace that defied logic. Forgiveness is deeper than wounds. Truth firm enough to stand on. These weren't just nice ideas. They were the heartbeat of heaven, and they still are. Because even now the sower still sows, the shepherd still searches, the Father still runs, and the gates of the kingdom are still open wide for any who will come, listen, and believe. If this glimpse into the life of Jesus touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's walk this journey of faith together.